Hello and welcome to Council Connections. I'm your host, Christine Johnson. On this show, we talk to those who represent you, the constituents here in the city of Laurel. We have new council members on the roster, and today we're talking to Council Member at Large, Martin Mitchell. So this is Mr. Mitchell's first term with the city. So welcome to Council Connections. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, so since this is your first term, so take some time and tell the constituents all about yourself.
Sure. So, yes, as you said, it's my first time as an at-large council member. Laurel is my hometown and has been for over 25 years. I am a father of twins. Very happy to say they're going to first grade. So they turned 6 this year. And I'm also a wrestling coach in the Laurel community and have been since high school.
Okay.
So that's just a little bit about me. Of course, I do a lot of advocacy work, but I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yes, we're definitely going to dive into that. And so you said 25 years. So you went to school here, you grew up here, local boy, huh?
Yes, definitely. Oakland, Dwight D. Eisenhower, Laurel High School. And, I think I'm, the only person on the council to graduated, at least right now, from Laurel High School outside of Mayor Mo. So both of us are proud Spartan graduates.
Okay, go Spartans.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask you, how did you become interested in politics?
Well, to be honest with you, I wasn't interested in, being involved in politics, but I was always interested in learning about politics and really about history because, today's politics is tomorrow's history. Mm-hmm. So, just becoming very involved in the social studies classes in middle school and high school. And, outside, just having an appetite to learn about American history, international history. And when I went to college, I thought I was going to be an international business student. And, I didn't really like the classes and it really didn't come as natural to me. And so my elective classes, a lot of them were political science. Mm-hmm. And I realized that, hey, you have pretty much straight A's in political science. So, maybe that's something that you should give an opportunity. And of course, when I transferred to Bowie State, they were very big on, activism and becoming politically engaged. So, I just started organizations at Bowie and joined groups to make sure that, I was doing my part. And, from there, I joined the Prince George's County Young Democrats. So, when I joined the Young Dems, the biggest mission for me was making sure that we didn't just network, but we actually did work and we actually had a legislative agenda as young people. And so, I was just a member and then I was central committee person on the board, then vice president, then president. And, in 2 weeks we have an election. So, I'll soon pass that up. But yeah, so that's really how I, really got started.
Okay. So it grew from there, your education, and then you took that interest and it just blossomed from there, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've done a lot of grunt work, right? So I worked at Capitol Hill, with congressmen. I worked at the state level, worked at the county level, and, worked with municipal officials on different community events or legislation. So, I've kind of been around it, but I never really intended to run because I knew that politics is corrupt. And, for the most part, I always thought, being smart enough, when would I be corrupted by politics if I didn't become intimately involved? And a professor at Bowie's, kind of said to me that, during the philosophy class, if you have the capacity to lead and you don't lead, don't be upset when you're led by a lesser person. And, that was really, stuck with me. And from that moment, I definitely started becoming more engaged at Bowie and, not as behind the scenes. And,
right. So you took your interest and your love and brought it back home to Laurel. Sure. And became interested in local politics. So how do you feel being a spokesperson for the constituents in the city of Laurel? Just overall, generally, how do you feel about having that position?
I feel good about it. I mean, Laurel is a smaller area than Prince George's County. For many years, I've helped pass the message for the Young Democrats across the county. But, it really is powerful for me to be able to, use my voice at the place that I've grown up. And, Laurel, I've seen Laurel change over the last, 25, 26 years I've lived here. Right. It's now a majority minority city. And, I think it's, I think it's great to have minority voices on the council. And then also, diversity and age on the council, because I think that's also important.
Right. Okay. So now let's get into a couple of the specifics, some different things that you're interested in and things you want to strive for. So let's talk about specifically some things you want to strive for in the city.
Sure. I mean, Well, the first thing I said was I wanted more multicultural events that represent and reflect the diverse culture that we have in the city of Laurel. So that's, of course, something that I've continued to do community events, outside of the box. And then also for me is working with the community to put on the events. Like somebody asked me yesterday who works for the city, like, who do you work for? I work for the people.
Right.
You know what I mean? The people elected me, yes, I'm a council member, but, I don't work for anybody. I work for my constituents. And, I work with my constituents to, help them succeed or their dreams or goals. So in my event planning, they bring the ideas to me. Oh, yeah, I'll help you. I'll support that. Because that's really how it should be.
Right.
The thought is like, yes, I have an idea of what might be good, but at the end of the day, the people know best and they know what they want. So,
right, you gotta do what they need because that's
Sure.
who you're working for.
Sure. So that's probably the most important thing. But as you know, rent has been one of the issues. So
Right.
making sure that we have protections. Those are the two biggest things right now. Multicultural events that reflect the diverse culture we have here, and making sure we protect tenants because, of course, the pandemic has only exacerbated with rent hikes and
Right.
the conditions between landlords and tenants.
Exactly. So we look forward to seeing events that will highlight those issues coming forward. Right.
Sure. I mean, well, not only that, legislation. So
Right.
that is the end game. You change lives through policy. We could have heartfelt sentiment and tears, but unless you're writing policy
Do
to address
something.
that, it's wholly ineffective. So
Right.
you can expect policy.
Okay. So we look forward to that. And since you mentioned event planning and things like that, do you have any upcoming events or things going on you'd like to share?
Any upcoming events yeah, sure. So, I'm a cannabis advocate, also a medical patient. So for many times I try to advocate for people just to understand what CBD and what THC are. And then, of course, like the benefits of, these two different, but very, very similar cousin plants, the cannabis plant and the hemp plant. And so, one of the things is, just teaching people that like CBD is something that you could try out. It doesn't have the psychoactive effects that, THCA are going to give you,
Right.
But it also has, many holistic benefits. The thought is like a lot of the seniors I talk to, they're on as many prescription pills as they can count, sometimes 2 hands or more.
Right.
And the thought is some of them that, now have been exposed to CBD or become medical cannabis patients use less of it. And, I think I had a conversation with somebody at St. Philip's in the congregation, and I said, legalization is going to be on the ballot in November. The thought is not looking at it from a perspective of where people could just legally consume, but it's looking at it from a medical perspective, and it's looking at it from, you're talking about opioid abuse, which I've heard they've had conversations on. I know you guys at St. Philip's have conversations on opioid abuse. So you should also, in that same conversation, how do you guys feel about legalization? And does legalization and, of course, medical access decrease opioid uses? And, the research and the study shows, yes, it does by, at least 30%. So that should be, an active part of the conversation. I know I'm a new council member. I haven't been here but 9 months, I think, almost.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is probably our 4th, 5th donation drive. So we try to do them.
What type of donations?
Canned goods,
Okay.
School supplies, and then also just toiletries and packaged goods. But also at a lot of these events, I try to have people that are handing out hot food as well. Hunger Free Zone, they've worked with me a couple times to feed the Laurel community. Every day they go around 6 days a week, give out about 200 to 300 meals. All of those meals being vegan options.
Okay.
And that's important for the vegan options because a lot of times in our communities, especially our Black and brown communities or lower income communities, one, we don't have access to, it's a food desert in some places, but then also this food is more expensive. So, being introduced to healthier ways to cook and consume your food
Right.
is also great for the community, right? So
Okay.
those are just a couple of events coming up. And then as the last thing I would say is we have, or not we, I've joined a coalition, CASA. CASA's been working to do a lot of work to protect tenants. Of course, we had the residents on 5th Street, or no, I'm sorry, 11th Street.
Okay.
It was 5 seniors who were facing eviction. and they've also helped at Patuxent Place, where there were 15 or 20 residents facing an extreme rent hike, but we were able to negotiate and work terms out. The coalition has been growing. I know that there's other advocacy organizations, not only from the city, but in the county and in the state of Maryland, that have joined the coalition. So,
like you said, Laurel's a smaller community, not like the county, but it looks like you're staying busy, trying to be active and find out the needs of the constituents. So you're doing activities that reflect that.
Sure,
All right.
absolutely.
Okay, sounds good. So looking on your page, I did see some other issues like voting rights and climate change. Did you want to talk about those right now, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, as you know, starting with voting is very important. We have an election coming up. We have Wes Moore as a Democratic candidate, and we have, Dan Cox as a Republican candidate. Although this is, nonpartisan, the question you have to ask yourself is, do you want rights that you already have taken away?
Right.
It's a lot harder to, take rights away than give them to people, right? So that's really a question that I implore everyone to ask when they, exercise their right. So, of course, for me, I want to make sure that we are doing as much as we can as stakeholders and as candidates to get our message out there. And then also just to meet people where they are. So not expect, everyone to be able to catch you on social media or on TV. The thought is you actually have to go out in the community, do events with these communities, and then, shake things up. I think that one of the biggest talking points that I'm going to be saying to get people out is, hey, cannabis is on the ballot. And the thought is like, same way that abortion drove people to the polls in Kansas, it should drive people to the polls, in Maryland and cannabis, because cannabis is going to be on the ballot. And, one of the candidates is super anti-abortion. So that should, also drive you to the ballot.
Okay.
But that was voting rights issues. As far as, climate change and the climate, I think that, Laurel has taken a lot of great steps to, be very green and environmentally friendly. I know we just recently became a bee city. And, that's of course going to be important because I know that bees have become, like endangered to some extent. So that's important. And then I know that we also have a new council member, Councilmember Cole, and he's I call him the environmental expert. So I know that he plans to help implement a lot of plans to make Laurel more green. And even talking to one of the residents, one of the ideas that he brought to me, and I'm sure we've heard it before, is making some green streets in Laurel, certified green streets. So I think that that's something that we can do as we can continue to be more climate friendly.
Right. Okay. So like I said, it sounds like a lot going on. You have a lot of issues that you want to tackle. And I look forward to, hearing events and things that are going to take place to address those issues. Just to lighten it up a little bit. I know in your bio, you mentioned wrestling and that you are a coach. And so tell us a little bit about wrestling and how you enjoy the sport and the things that you've done.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, wrestling, I wrestled in high school and college and, All-American in both. And I would say that wrestling teaches character. So the thought is like you do work with the team, and it is a very family oriented environment. But you as an individual, you go out there every day, and you're held accountable, for wins, losses, and I would say the greatest lesson that I learned from wrestling was you learn more in one loss than you do 100 wins, especially if you're critical of it. And that was for me like watching tape and just figuring out where I can get better. From that loss. So, and I was also the type of person that didn't take losses hard. Just got back to work, and you couldn't tell if I won or lost when I got off of the mat. Because that's how calm and cool I was usually. Right. And so being able to coach, I really loved that, and I was very excited. Laurel had their first state champion in 27. I think the last one was 94, 95, and I actually knew, or actually still know him. It's Sidney Billups, and he actually coaches at Atherton. And his son is now a college wrestler at Kent State. But I looked at that on the wall so many times in high school. I only came as close as third. I never won states, but I definitely represented Laurel well, and I was very proud that we had not only a state champion, but we had another state placer, and we had the most state qualifiers this year that I can remember in 2-3 decades. Right. So it was impressive. And a lot of the kids that I've known since 9th grade, and some of them graduated. So it also just made me think, wow, I'm getting old. So, the kids that I have, they're now going to be in the junior league. So,
Right.
Soon, hopefully I'll be their coach, before, they could beat me up.
So very impressive. Right. If you weren't in the suit and everything, we show with some moves and things like that, but we'll save that for another time, right?
Yes, we could always, do a video at a class or, a clinic or something.
Right. So look, sounds like it's a lot going on, fun, you being out in the community and doing stuff about different events that's going on in the community. We really appreciate the efforts that you're putting in as city council member. And like you said, you want to be out in the community. So if you can share with your constituents how they can reach you, you want to hear what they have to say and they need to reach out to you. So share with them how they can reach you.
Sure. I mean, all social medias for sure. Got to start off there being a millennial. So, Martin for Laurel on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think I'm even work on the LinkedIn. And
Okay.
I still have the martinforlaurel.com. I just haven't converted it from a campaign page to a blog page. But, that's also one way. The email, Martin, or I say M. Mitchell at laurel.md.us. So M. Mitchell at laurel.md.us. And then you could reach out to me also here at City Hall, 301-725-5300. And, I'm very responsive. So definitely just feel free to reach out to me.
Okay. Well, we thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate everything you're doing in the community. Look forward to many other things more to come.
Yeah.
So thank you again.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys. Go team.
We would like to thank Council Member at Large Martin Mitchell for joining us today on Council Connections. We thank him for what he's done for the city thus far and how he plans to use this platform in the city of Laurel to do so much more. Here's to local government. Stay connected.